Hey y'all, welcome to First Comes Love, Then Comes Marriage podcast. My name is Lindsay Jackson.
And I am Aaron Jackson.
And we're so excited. We have another cliche for you, cliches and realness. And this one is actually a verse in the Bible.
Okay.
But I've heard it.
I can do all things through Christ?
No.
Oh, okay.
This is, it's better to marry than to burn. Okay?
It's better to marry than to burn. Okay.
It's better to marry than to burn. So let me give you a little background on where I heard it from and why I chose this particular one today. So I actually heard this on another podcast. I was just like randomly looking through YouTube, seeing things, and Jackie Hill Perry, she was talking about it, and she was saying it's better to marry than to burn. And I was like, what is this? And then, you know how it's one of those things where once you hear something once, then you start hearing it again?
Yeah, it's in your atmosphere.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So I was hearing it over and over again. I was like, what is going on? And so to tie it in with today, because it is
Good Friday,
Easter weekend, we're talking sacrifice, which we do sometimes around this time, just thinking about what Easter and Resurrection Sunday is always about. And so that is why I chose this one.
Cool.
All right?
Yep.
So let's talk about it. You want to go first? You want to say what it means, what you think it means?
It's better to marry than to burn.
Yeah.
So is it better to marry than to like burn with desire? To like wanna have sex before marriage and just, I don't know, burn.
Right.
Because when I think about burn, I think about like consumption, like fire, just like consuming.
All consuming.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so maybe it's kind of like it's better just to get married than to think about, I guess, having sex all the time.
Have your loins burning.
Yeah. Burning.
And festering.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think so. I think that's kind of what it means. That was kind of my take. Not like literal burning in hell, but just too much passion. So it's and then the sex drive, it goes that way. It goes the wrong way. So better to get married than to stay single. Or better to get married than to stay single and have sex before marriage. Essentially, don't have sex before marriage. Long story short, this is like get married before you have sex.
Which is, and you said this was in the Bible, right?
This is in Corinthians.
Do you know like the specific verse?
Paul said it. I think it's like Corinthians 7.
Okay.
Right? Okay, so
Ooh.
Right. Okay. So this is one of those topics that's like, is it still truthful in 2024?
So yeah, all right. So this is where I'm conflicted, right? Because I am a firm believer of the Bible, and the Bible is the living word. So saying that something in the Bible isn't truthful now and this time, to me, is kind of like, no, the Bible is always truthful.
The same today, tomorrow, and ever was, right? Yeah, so that's how we were raised.
And the thing that, it happens with everybody, it happens with every pastor, is kind of like how you interpret the scriptures, how you apply it to your life and stuff like that. Because I remember when I was in youth church, and like I used to see all these people they used to get married real young. Even us, people wanted us to get married real young. But like, I'm talking like 18, 19, 20, 21, getting married. Yeah.
That's too young. You're still under your parents' insurance.
No. They're like, I've seen really young marriages like that. And I was thinking in my head, like, I was like, y'all too young for that. But truthfully, now that I'm older, I'm like, sometimes it is better to get married young. Like, just, if you have the maturity for it, and even if you don't have the maturity for it, for me, it's kind of like, oh yeah, as long as I got somebody who could ride or die for me, and we could just work it out, all the ups and the downs, and you could still be there for me.
Right.
Then after, like, say you get married at 21, you in 10 years, you 31, you probably got like 1 or 2 kids. They might be like 6, 7. You might be having a comfortable life. Okay. That's all I'm saying. So, yeah, when I was younger, I would think this would be crazy. But now that I have 3 kids, I think that you should just do everything younger.
That's because you're in a state of like, oh my gosh, this is like, we're in the thick of it. And I use that like saying, okay, this is it. This is what's happening right now with us. But I'm not going to say 21 because the maturity, whether you have a mature 21-year-old or not, you don't know anything about life at 21. Very rarely. Maybe the one person does, but it's very rare. So, I mean, I think when we got married at 27, what did we know? Okay.
Because, all right, so is it better to... All right, because this is the problem with this verse and how people translate it. Some people want you to get married to the wrong person. I
don't think anybody does, but okay.
Okay, so say it's a situation where you have a child with somebody who's not the right fit with you.
I see, yes.
And they're like, oh yeah, it's better to get married than burned. You're with this person, that's your baby daddy, that's your baby mama, or whatever. And in the church, they're like, y'all should get married.
In that case, they've already had sex. Okay, so that doesn't apply to them.
But they're still together.
Okay.
So say you're still together. You're still together. You got a baby mama, you got a baby daddy, but it's not a good fit.
Yes.
Is it better to get married than to burn, as in to get married than to burn in hell because you're still with this person? You get it?
Yeah, I understand that was definitely like old school mentality.
Yeah,
it's like, especially you knock somebody up, oh, we got to get married.
Shotgun wedding.
Right. Whether we love them, whether we not, we're going to make it work. We're going to do the right thing.
Yeah.
So get married. Okay. I don't take this verse to mean that. I take this verse to mean before anything happens, before it happens, which we know people who have simply was like, you know what, we really, really, really want to have sex. Let's go ahead and get married real quick.
Yeah.
And then we can have sex. Just like logistics and keeping it 100 with what the Bible says and truthful with what we believe to be true. Let's get married. Let's just get the paper document and then we can have sex. So we know people that do that. I don't think that this is saying do the right thing, get married if, say, you got in a situation, like you said, where there's children involved.
But it says it's better to get married than to burn.
Than to burn, I know.
So it doesn't say that sex hasn't already happened.
It's true.
You get it?
But I'm taking burn as in your loins. You're taking burn as in burn in hell.
Yeah, but also it could be both because, like, all right, just because I had sex with you one time, we had a baby, or how many other times, doesn't mean I that desire stops, right?
True.
So therefore, if the desire keeps going, I'm still burning.
It's true.
So it's like,
so it could be twice. It could be burning, burning.
Yeah,
you're right.
And that's why I'm kind of like, but it brings it back to. It's a weird text because, especially us growing up in the church, and marriage is so much more than intimacy, and we do put an emphasis on intimacy. I think in other podcasts I said that intimacy is a duty, right? But marriage is so much more to that. And so if somebody's just like, yo, it's better to get married than to burn, they're putting so much on that one part of marriage.
Yeah. Will it survive?
Yeah.
Will the marriage even survive? So then we got to go talk about what is it, divorce? Like what?
Well, they got to listen to last week. They got to take on Aaron Thomas.
Last episode we talked about divorce. We talked about prenup. We talked about all that. So I mean, choices. I mean, exactly what you're saying. This is the things that we talked about when we were so young that, I mean, story time. Can I do story time a little bit?
You can do
okay, story time. We have known each other, and we talk about this. We've known each other, let's say, like all our lives. Since third grade, met in the church, and we started dating at 15. And so I remember being at church in the parking lot, and we both have stories of our older siblings having had sex before marriage.
Yeah.
And so I can speak for myself. My reasoning for not having sex before marriage was more so because it was like, if you have sex before marriage, you're going to have children. And we've talked about this before, but you also had a sibling who had sex before marriage,
Wyatt,
and ended up having a child out of wedlock,
Jasmine.
And so we were both like, man, you know, and it wasn't even more so for me, my sister, that kind of put the fear in me. It was my parents' reaction to my sister. So I feel like I'm looking at, like, even your parents, we're looking at our parents having to take over and help out our siblings. And I was like, man, even if I wanted kids, I don't want my parents swooping in, helping me with my kids and having this type of situation.
No, keep going.
So I remember that. And so when I think about the reasonings for why we chose not to have sex until we got married, because both of us were virgins until we literally, and Aaron was like, okay, August 22nd, 8/22. We were like, I remember we left our wedding, not early, but he was like, time to go. Because he wanted to have sex on that day, and it was really important, and it was pivotal for us because we sacrificed and we waited for so long because we were together 10 years.
We were together
12 years?
12,
You're right.
12 years.
12 years.
Because I got you a watch.
Yes. When we were engaged, and it was 12 years before we got married. And so I just think about, it wasn't necessarily, yes, we were raised in the church, and yes, we understood, not this scripture in particular.
You speak a lot of French. You're saying we.
Okay, well, yes, I understood. We were in the relationship together, and we talked about waiting together. So nothing was forced, but I understood not to do it, say no, wait, all the things. But honestly, if I can really think about what was pivotal, it was really the fact that it was like, oh, okay, my parents did not like and really had to help in a way that they were not prepared for my sister having a child, that I was like, you know what, this isn't good. This isn't what I want. And so that was the reason. Not so much this burning in hell, because hell is this, like, people don't view hell as real, right? You don't see it. It's something in eternity. It's something that my body is like, it's not there present for. So that's not necessarily, but even when I think about like how are we going to teach things, abstinence to our kids? How are we going to teach this? To talk about hell, it's so mysterious. So, but that's our story.
I love your perspective. Mine was like, my brother told me that he got his now wife, interesting enough.
How many years is that? 18 years later, right?
It was a long time. It was a long dip.
But still.
And I'm the youngest of 5. So I've actually, like, grown up learning from other people's choices.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah. So, like, if somebody does that and I don't like the way that it turned out for them, I'm like, I'm not going to do that.
I'm not going to do that. But you're an observer in that way.
I'm a genius. So I think I heard, speaking of, like, cliches and saying, I heard somebody was like, a smart man learns from others.
It's true.
Yeah. So I was like, okay. And I remember, I think I called you on the phone. I was like, yo, we can't have sex before marriage. Because it was like inside, it was like drilled in me that, like, if I have sex, I will have a baby.
You see? That's what I'm saying.
Which is so false.
It is,
also.
and we'll talk about that later. But go ahead.
Yeah.
But
so,
yeah.
So that was one of the main reasons. But then like afterwards, and I said this on what's it called, Black Love. Mm-hmm. I was like, yo, it was mainly you. I think if it was another girl and I said, hey, yo, we're not having sex, and we were together for 3 years or something like that, we probably would have had sex. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't have that self-control. But I am a respectful person. So if you're saying no, I'm not going to be like, yes.
You was raised right.
Yeah.
No means no.
Yeah, no means no. So it was always you. And then I was already in love by the time like you went to college, and you were in New York and I was in LA. So I was already head over heels over you. So it was always you. So I wasn't really trying to mess that up with anybody else. So that's but there were some benefits to it because I was the youth leader at the youth church, and so I kind of did, even though I kind of had a reputation, or I had a standard, even though everybody at that church was wilding.
Okay, but
go.
What was the main reason? If you had to say this is one reason. Okay.
You. And you were the main reason.
The main reason you didn't have sex before marriage
was you.
Okay.
And so that's it. Yeah, like you said, it's going to be hard to. It's going to be a challenge to teach action. It might and shine. It might be a little bit easier because we did it. I'll live, and that's not going to be hard. I'm just going to get some guns.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. It's like the stigma for girls versus boys, but the reality is the boys having sex with somebody. You know what I'm saying? They have, so it's like we have to teach our children not the same thing, but this particular is like, how would we teach it? Are we still teaching it? The thing is, it's always crazy because it's like, just because your parents did it doesn't mean you have to do it. But
which is funny because our parents, I love our parents, but as we get older, I'm just like, I notice things and I'm like, oh, okay. Mm-hmm. So remember I think I was talking to you, I was like, isn't it interesting that both of us have siblings that yeah. So
respect.
And I was just like, okay, that's interesting. And then if you hear stories about if I hear stories about my parents back in the day, and I'm the youngest of 5, so stories I feel like change. Parents get to manipulate.
Hyperbole for sure. But I feel like our parents probably think we're kind of lame. You think about how prudent we are.
I know, but living together was a big deal. Our parents were
living together, and our parents were doing some things and having times. Having times, but they want it better for us.
Yeah, and so
you always want better for your children.
Do you think it's the situation? I think I heard it all right, so say our parents was wilding out, right? So they wild out, they teach their kids to be good non-wild out kids, mm-hmm, right? Mm-hmm. And so now we're good non-wild out kids, and we teach our children to be non-wild out kids.
But they're our parents. So
I think eventually it's going to get to the part where somebody's going to wild out again.
Sure.
So hopefully that's our great grandkids.
We have to do with it.
I gotta do with it. But yeah, when it comes to it's better to marry than to burn. I think it's not only talking about sex. When the way I kind of remember it growing up, it was living together, anything that precedes a relationship, anything anything that you do that people do in a marriage, mm-hmm, you might as well get married.
Okay, so you're just cutting it dry. You know what? If you are doing married things, go ahead and get married.
Yeah.
Okay.
How do you feel about that?
I think that's hard because nowadays people want to see what they're getting into so much so that they are playing married before getting married. I want to see that you can cook. I want to see how you live. I want to see all of these things, and I want you to treat me as such. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know if that's realistic. And so
I think it's smart.
You think it's smart to just go ahead and get married?
No, I think it's smart to have that trial period.
A trial to say like, hey, we're gonna play married for a month. Let's just see how it works.
No, I wouldn't even put like a time stamp on it. Like I want to be like, oh, let's try this out for a month. I would just be like, okay, yeah, let's do the things. It's so interesting at my job. I always go like, if somebody says that's not my job, my response in the most respectful way is like, then it never will be. Because if you're not acting like it, then you're not going to do it. So if we're not acting like it, it's not like, I'm thinking about old people like, oh, y'all playing house.
You playing house. So you asking me to be your wife without the privilege of actually being your wife.
Now that I've been married for 10 years.
Going on.
I need to know all the privileges. Because I'll be seeing these people with their taxes. I'll be seeing these people who aren't married who just be together and be like, yo, we got something together. I think the main thing about the marriage is the protection and the covenant that we have with God. And that's the thing about marriage that like some people don't, especially like people who aren't religious, they don't. That's why like the prenup is so important to other people. It's like this is a business transaction, but for us, not only is it a thing about like a worldly thing getting married, but it's also like a spiritual thing and a covenant between us and God, to becoming one that we have to remember. And I that's the main thing about marriage. So it's like, it's better to get married than to burn. When I really think about it, it's kind of like, since the marriage is the covenant with God that we have, it's better than to do that than to not have the covenant, because like we're under God's protection.
Right.
And to burn, like how am I going to burn when I'm in Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? I ain't gonna burn because I'm with God.
Okay.
But
I see where you went with that. You circled it around.
But if I'm not, then I can't burn. The chances of burn or getting burned or being scorned is bigger.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I like it.
Welcome to the Am I Wrong segment of First Comes Love, Then Comes Marriage podcast. This is the part where I tell you a situation and you tell me if Lindsay is wrong or if I am wrong. So today, my wife knows that I need new shoes. Okay? She knows this. And it's Easter time. We are a strong believer in Easter clothes for our children. And Lindsay went to the local shoe store today and asked me, what was my rewards number for this place. And I gave her my number, and then I also said, get me some shoes. And she was like, oh yeah, I got the boys some shoes. My question, Lindsay, did you get yourself some shoes?
You didn't ask me.
Did you get some shoes?
Yes, I did.
Exactly. And I was waiting for this podcast to actually live. She got herself some shoes. She got my son some shoes. And I asked her in the same text message to get me the shoes, and she did not get me the shoes.
Okay.
Am I wrong? Should I feel some type of way about this?
He is wrong, y'all. He's not giving you the full scope of it at all. So, yes, I did go to the shoe store to get the boys some shoes, and they needed tennis shoes as well as church shoes. So it was like, okay, I texted him. We were in this shoe store for at least 45 minutes because I got Shine, Live. It takes a minute. We trying on shoes. He texts me back literally, I wish I could have recorded it, as the cashier is handing me the receipt to leave the store. And now, you know, if you have young kids, when it's time to go, it's time to go, period, hands down. So I did get myself some shoes, but also postpartum, you know, my feet.
What? Postpartum?
My feet, I need shoes. And you know, if he was at the shoe store, I would think, if this was reversed, what would I want? I would not want him to get me a pair of shoes because I need to try on my shoes. Now I'm like a whole size bigger. So no, he's not a size bigger, but I really was like, you know, he might want to try on shoes. I don't know. So I'm not going to get him shoes, but I did think of him. And that's the most important lesson here. So you can tell him that he's wrong. DM us. First Comes Love, TCM on Instagram.
I need you to please leave a comment on the YouTube at First Comes Love. Or you can email us at let's talk at firstcomeslove.com.
Welcome back. We are back still talking about the cliche / verse. It's better to marry than to burn. And I said earlier that I wanted to talk about this topic because every year around this time, we remember the sacrifice that Jesus did in dying on the cross for each and every one of us. And this verse is talking about the sacrifice, I believe, of waiting until you get married to have sex.
Okay.
So sacrifices.
I want to see how you pull this around. This is going to be interesting.
Why?
Because I want to see. It's talking about the sacrifices. I interpret it a different way. Okay. So I want to know, like, how do you think it's talking about sacrifices?
Okay. Well, here's the thing. I was not a thanks. I was not burning necessarily, even though now that I say it out loud, I can recall a few times where my father has caught me, you know, when we were younger and the hormones were kind of raging and maybe we were like making out.
Man, let me tell you, teenagers be wild.
Like the audacity. I would be like straddling him or like, I don't know. I was just like, yeah, I guess I was. But I was excited to kiss you. I never thought that we would. Rarely, I shouldn't speak in hyperboles. Rarely did I think like, we're about to have sex right now, you know, that sort of thing. So to me, I'm like, how much did I sacrifice in waiting in that period, right? And not having sex with you. What was the sacrifice? Or did I sacrifice anything during that time? And I think I did. I mean, I know I did because we could have gotten married earlier. Like, in my head, I was waiting for you to propose to me, to have sex, to get married, to then have sex. Okay? Now, I wasn't raised where the woman asked the man, so I just was not going to do that. But I probably would have gotten married at least 2 years earlier because I was pretty ready. You know what? Even earlier than that, I was ready when I asked you to come to Philadelphia to live with me. I was like, man.
That was 2 years earlier.
That was 2 years earlier? Yeah. Okay, well, I was right. I was right on the money. 2 years earlier, I was ready. I was ready to get married. I was ready to go all the way, as they say, and do this. So it was a sacrifice because I waited patiently. I was like, you know what, God? And I did. That's what I did. I focused all my other energy on doing anything else, something else.
Yeah, you got a master's to show for it.
I got a master's. I made it to Broadway.
You traveled.
I traveled the world.
It seems like a lot of good things happened.
Okay?
All right. So I don't think it's interesting you talk about sacrifice. I feel like I didn't really sacrifice that much. And also, is this saying in particular to me is almost like for the impatient. Like we're talking about being patient. Because it's like, it's better to get married. When I hear that first part, it's just like, yo, just get married.
Just hurry up and do it.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. It doesn't necessarily, that's what it's saying, but I'm hearing, when I hear when it's better to get married, I'm thinking like, rush it.
You're right.
Than to burn. Because as we know, especially if you listen to season 4, like, it really helps to take the steps, do the premarital counseling, do all these questionnaire. Because of like, marriage ain't, I mean, not marriage, but sex ain't the end all be all.
Right. So yes, sex is not the end all be all, but it is very important. Like you have said many times.
I said intimacy.
Okay.
Because like if I leave it all up to sex, like, you can get sex from anywhere. You're not supposed to, but you can get sex from anywhere.
Yeah.
But that intimacy is what's really important. That's the things that you can do with a touch or a hug that I can't get from another woman. Mm-hmm. Those are the important things. The intimacies of you cheer me on or boosting my ego. Like, those things are more important than the actual sex part.
Okay.
So
you're saying, though, that you did not sacrifice in the waiting period?
No.
Wow.
So.
Okay. Well, I mean,
this is an interesting one. I would like to say, as we're wrapping it up, a happy Good Friday, all right, to everybody. We will be moving our podcast to Tuesdays.
Ah, yes.
Yes, so we'll be
decided.
moving, yeah.
I think it's good because we're trying to find a way for you to engage with us more. So we feel like the Tuesday spot is really about to...
Yeah, I think Tuesday is going to be a good one.
Okay.
So let's do the wrap and say see you next Tuesday. All right, go.
Thank you for joining us on First Comes Love, Then Comes Marriage podcast. Please reach out to us and engage. We want to know. First Comes Love, TCM on Instagram or TikTok.
You can always comment on the YouTube channel. That's at First Comes Love.
Subscribe.
Yeah, and share.
And email us, let's talk at firstcomeslovethenComesMarriage.com.
See you next Tuesday.
Oh, man. And you just said it too. Okay.
Goodbye, everybody.
No.
Cut.
Tuesday. See you next Tuesday.
Silly girl.